Illuminating the path, how confronting mortality can transform your life. Welcome to a journey that will challenge your perceptions, stir your emotions, and potentially change the way you live. Today, we're diving into a topic that many of us instinctively shy away from, yet it's one that holds the key to unlocking a more purposeful, authentic, and impactful life. We're going to talk about death, but more importantly, we're going to talk about life. I have the incredible privilege of sharing with you the profound insights I gained from interviewing Nikki'i Taylor, a visionary whose work is genuinely transforming lives and making our world a better place. Nikki's unwavering dedication to helping others confront life's most challenging realities and her passion for illuminating the path for those who follow are nothing short of inspirational. Her wisdom and experiences have deeply touched me, and I'm excited to share them with you in a way that I hope will resonate and spark meaningful change in your own lives. Nikki'i Taylor is not just an expert in her field, she's a beacon of light in the often dark and misunderstood realm of mortality and legacy. Her work has helped countless individuals and families navigate the complex emotional terrain of preparing for the future, healing relationships, and living with purpose. She's the kind of person who makes you laugh, cry, and feel everything in between. But more than that, she's someone who isn't afraid to tackle the tough subjects, the ones we often push to the recesses of our minds. As I sat down with Nikki'i, I was immediately struck by her energy and the palpable passion she exudes for her work. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of compassion and determination as she shared her insights. It was clear that this wasn't just a job for her, it was a calling, a mission to help people live more fully by confronting the reality of their mortality. Now, I can almost feel the collective intake of breath, the slight shift in posture as some of you brace yourselves for what's to come. But I want you to stay with me because what we're really going to talk about is how to live, truly live, with purpose, authenticity, and impact. Nikki, I shared a powerful message with me that I believe has the potential to revolutionize the way we approach our lives. It's important to have your affairs in order because the day is not promised to anyone. It's absolutely okay to talk about and prepare today for tomorrow and for your family. Let that sink in for a moment. How many of us go through our days as if we have an infinite supply of them? How often do we put off important conversations, meaningful actions, or pursuing our dreams because we assume there will always be a tomorrow? But here's the thing, and this is what Nikki'i's message really drove home for me. Acknowledging our mortality doesn't have to be morbid or depressing. In fact, it can be incredibly liberating. It can give us the push we need to live more intentionally, to prioritize what truly matters, and to create a legacy that extends far beyond our physical presence. Let's break this down a bit. When Nikki'i talks about having our affairs in order, she's not just referring to wills and legal documents, although those are important. She's talking about emotional affairs, relational affairs, spiritual affairs. She's encouraging us to ask ourselves, if today were my last day, what would I want my loved ones to know? What unresolved conflicts would I want to address? What dreams would I regret not pursuing? These aren't easy questions to answer. They require us to be vulnerable, to look deep within ourselves and confront our fears, our shortcomings, our unfulfilled aspirations. But it's in this vulnerability that we find our strength. It's in acknowledging our limitations that we can push beyond them. Nikki'i shared a story with me that perfectly illustrates this point. She told me about Sarah, a 45-year-old executive who had always put her career first. Sarah was successful by all conventional measures. She had a high-powered job, a beautiful home, and all the trappings of a luxurious lifestyle. But when Sarah's father passed away suddenly, she was forced to confront her own mortality and the emptiness she felt despite her achievements. Sarah reached out to Nikki'i, feeling lost and unsure of how to proceed. Through their work together, Sarah began to reevaluate her priorities. She realized that while her career was important, it wasn't the legacy she wanted to leave behind. She started having deeper conversations with her teenage children, reconnecting with old friends, and volunteering at a local community center. The transformation in Sarah's life was profound. She didn't quit her job or make drastic changes overnight. Instead, she began to infuse every aspect of her life with more purpose and intention.
She started mentoring young women in her industry, sharing not just her professional expertise, but also the life lessons she had learned. She initiated family meetings where they discussed their values, dreams, and fears openly. Sarah told Nikki'i
that for the first time in her life, she felt truly alive. By confronting her mortality, she had paradoxically learned how to live more fully. This story resonates deeply because it shows us that it's never too late to change our path, to realign our lives with our true values and desires. But Sarah's story is just one of many that Nikki shared with me. Let me tell you about Michael, a 65-year-old retiree who had always been known as the grumpy old man in his neighborhood. Michael reached out to Nikki after a health scare made him realize he didn't want to be remembered that way. Through their work together, Michael discovered that his gruff exterior was a defense mechanism, a way to protect himself from the pain of past losses. As he began to confront his mortality, he also started to open up about his experiences, his regrets, and his hopes. The change in Michael was remarkable. He started organizing neighborhood cookouts, volunteering at the local animal shelter, and even took up painting, a passion he had abandoned in his youth. His neighbors were astonished by the transformation. One of them told Nikki, "It's like he's become a different person, but really I think this is who he was all along, just hidden away." Michael's story teaches us that it's never too late to change our legacy. By confronting his mortality, Michael found the courage to become the person he had always wanted to be. He illuminated a new path, not just for himself, but for his entire community. These stories illustrate a crucial point. It's never too late to start illuminating your path. It's never too late to have those important conversations, to make amends, to express your love, to pursue your passions. But why wait? Why not start now while we still have the gift of time? Nikki'i's approach reminds me of the Japanese concept of ikigai, which roughly translates to a reason for being. It's about finding joy in life through purpose. When we confront our mortality, we're forced to consider our ikigai. What gives our life meaning? What impact do we want to have on the world? How can we use our unique gifts and experiences to illuminate the path for others? Now, I want to pause here for a moment. I can almost hear some of you thinking, this is all well and good, but it's easier said than done. How do I even begin to have these conversations? How do I prepare for a future I can't predict? These are valid concerns, and Nikki'i addressed them head on in our conversation. She emphasized that it's not about having all the answers or having everything perfectly planned out. It's about starting the conversation, taking those first steps, however small they might be. So, one practical suggestion Nikki'i offered is to start with a letter. Write a letter to your loved ones as if it were the last thing they'd hear from you. What would you say? What wisdom would you impart? What love would you express? This exercise isn't about crafting a perfect document, but about opening yourself up to the process of reflection and communication. Nikki'i shared the story of Tom and Lisa, a couple in their 50s who had been married for 25 years. They loved each other deeply, but they had fallen into a routine of comfortable silence, rarely discussing their deeper feelings or fears. When they attended one of Nikki'i's workshops, they were challenged to write these letters to each other. The experience was transformative. Tom, who had always struggled to express his emotions, found himself pouring out pages of heartfelt gratitude and love for Lisa. Lisa, in turn, shared her fears about the future and her dreams for their remaining years together. When they read their letters to each other, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. This exercise didn't just bring Tom and Lisa closer, it sparked a new chapter in their relationship. They began to have regular heart to heart dates where they would discuss their hopes, fears, and dreams. They started planning for the future together, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually as well. Tom later told Nikki'i, "I thought I knew everything about Lisa after 25 years of marriage, but this process has shown me that there's always more to discover, more love to express, more life to live together." Another powerful practice Nikki'i recommends is creating a legacy box. This isn't necessarily a physical box, but a collection of memories, values, and lessons you want to pass on. It could include photos, letters, recipes, or even recorded messages. The act of curating this box can be a profound experience, helping you clarify what truly matters to you and what you want your legacy to be. Nikki'i shared the story of Elena, a 72-year-old grandmother who created a legacy box for each of her grandchildren. Elena filled these boxes with family heirlooms, handwritten stories of her life, recipes for favorite family dishes, and letters addressing pivotal moments she anticipated in her grandchildren's lives, their graduations, weddings, the birth of their first child. When Elena passed away, these legacy boxes became a source of comfort and connection for her family. Her grandchildren often speak of how they feel Elena's presence, guiding them through life's challenges and celebrations. One granddaughter said, "It's like having a conversation with grandma, even though she's no longer here. Her wisdom and love continue to illuminate my path." But perhaps the most impactful suggestion Nikki'i shared was simply this: start living your legacy now. Don't wait for some future moment to become the person you want to be remembered as. If you want to be remembered as kind, be kind today. If you want to be remembered as someone who made a difference, start making that difference now, no matter how small it might seem. This idea of living your legacy ties directly into Nikki'i's call to illuminate the path for those behind us. It's about recognizing that our actions, our words, our very being creates a trail that others will follow. What kind of path are we creating? Is it one of fear and avoidance, or one of courage and authenticity? Nikki'i shared a powerful example of this principle in action. She told me about David, a successful businessman who had always put his work first. He had amassed wealth and accolades, but as he faced a terminal diagnosis, he realized he had neglected the relationships that mattered most. In his final months, with Nikki'i's guidance, David set about repairing those relationships, having the difficult conversations he'd avoided for years, and creating meaningful memories with his family. He started a mentorship program at his company, sharing not just his business acumen, but the life lessons he had learned too late. The transformation David underwent was profound. Yes, there was sadness and regret, but there was also joy, reconciliation, and a deep sense of peace. He told Nikki'i that facing his mortality had given him the courage to truly live for the first time. In his last weeks, David organized a family reunion. It wasn't a somber affair, but a celebration of life and love. He used this opportunity to share his legacy, not just through words, but through actions. He reconciled with his estranged brother, danced with his wife like they were newlyweds, and had deep, meaningful conversations with each of his children and grandchildren. After David passed, his family continued his legacy. They maintained the mentorship program he started, and each year on his birthday, they volunteer together at a local charity. David's daughter told Nikki'i, "Dad taught us how to live in his dying. His legacy isn't just in what he left behind, but in how he inspired us to live." This story illustrates a crucial point. It's never too late to start illuminating your path. It's never too late to have those important conversations, to make amends, to express your love, to pursue your passions. But why wait? Why not start now while we still have the gift of time? I want to circle back to something Nikki'i said that really stuck with me. It's absolutely okay to talk about and prepare today for tomorrow and for your family. There's a tendency in our society to avoid discussions of death and mortality. We often see it as morbid or pessimistic, but Nikki'i's work shows us that the opposite is true. By confronting these realities, by preparing for them, we free ourselves to live more fully in the present. Think about it. When we know we've taken care of the practical matters, when we've had those important conversations, when we're actively working towards leaving a positive legacy, doesn't that allow us to be more present, more engaged in our daily lives? Doesn't it give us a sense of peace and purpose? This isn't about living in fear of death. It's about living with an awareness of the preciousness of life. It's about recognizing that each day is a gift, an opportunity to make a difference, to show love, to pursue our passions, to illuminate the path for others. As I listened to Nikki'i speak, I was struck by the parallels between her message and the philosophy of many great thinkers throughout history. From the Stoics of ancient Rome to modern day mindfulness practitioners, there's a common thread: the idea that confronting our mortality can lead to a more meaningful, purposeful life. But Nikki'i takes this a step further. She shows us that it's not just about personal growth or individual enlightenment. It's about the impact we have on others, the legacy we leave, the paths we illuminate. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness and our responsibility to those who will follow in our footsteps. This brings me to a crucial point that Nikki'i emphasized in our conversation: the importance of community in this process, preparing for the future, having these difficult conversations, living our legacy. These aren't solitary activities. They involve our loved ones, our communities, the networks of relationships that give our lives meaning. Nikki'i shared examples of families she's worked with who have turned the process of preparing for the future into a bonding experience. Instead of avoiding the topic, they've embraced it, using it as an opportunity to share stories, express gratitude, and deepen their connections. One such family was the Johnsons. After the loss of their patriarch, they felt adrift, realizing how much of their family history and values had gone unspoken. They reached out to Nikki'i for guidance on how to preserve their legacy going forward. Nikki'i helped them create a family legacy project. They began with regular family meetings where they shared stories, discussed their values, and made plans for the future. They created a family mission statement that reflected their shared values and goals. They even started a family philanthropy project, pooling their resources to support causes that were important to them. The impact on the Johnson family was transformative. The younger generations felt a stronger connection to their roots and a clearer sense of purpose. The older generations felt the joy of passing on their wisdom and values. As Mrs. Johnson put it, we're not just a family anymore. We're a team with a mission. This communal aspect is particularly important in the context of illuminating the path for others. Now, we don't exist in isolation. Our actions, our words, our very being ripple out and affect those around us. When we consciously choose to live in a way that illuminates a positive path, we're not just changing our own lives, we're potentially changing the lives of countless others. Nikki'i's work reminds us that we all have the power to be lighthouses, to shine a beacon that guides and inspires others. This could be through mentoring, through volunteering, through creating art, through parenting, through our professional work. The possibilities are endless. The key is to approach our lives with intentionality and an awareness of our impact. Now, I want to address something that might be coming up for some of you. As we talk about legacy and illuminating paths, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. We might think, but I'm not doing anything extraordinary. How can I leave a meaningful legacy? This is where Nikki'i's wisdom really shines through. She emphasizes that legacy isn't about grand gestures or world-changing achievements. It's about the accumulation of small actions, daily choices, and consistent values. It's about how we treat the cashier at the grocery store, how we show up for our friends in times of need, how we handle setbacks and challenges. Nikki'i shared the story of Maria, a school janitor who had worked at the same elementary school for over 30 years. Maria never had children of her own and often felt that her life was unremarkable. But when she fell ill and had to retire, something extraordinary happened. The school organized a surprise celebration for Maria. Students from across the decades came to share how Maria had impacted their lives. They spoke of her kindness, her encouraging words, how she always remembered their names and asked about their dreams. One former student, now a teacher himself, said, Maria taught me that no job is too small to do with great love. She showed me the dignity in all work. Maria's legacy wasn't built on grand achievements or material wealth. It was built on daily acts of kindness, on showing up with love and integrity day after day. Her path, illuminated by compassion and dedication, had guided generations of students. This story beautifully illustrates that we're all leaving a legacy, whether we're conscious of it or not. The question is, what kind of legacy do we want to leave? And how can we align our daily actions with that vision? This brings us back to the idea of having our affairs in order. It's not just about practical preparations, it's about emotional and spiritual preparation too. It's about clarifying our values, healing our relationships, pursuing our passions, and living in alignment with our deepest truths. As we near the end of our time together, I want to circle back to where we started. Remember that collective intake of breath when I first mentioned we'd be talking about death? My hope is that by now, that tension has transformed into something else. Perhaps a sense of possibility, of purpose, of empowerment. Because that's really what Nikki'i's message is all about. It's not about fear or morbidity. It's about embracing the fullness of life, about recognizing the power we have to shape our legacy and illuminate paths for others. So I want to leave you with a challenge, a call into action inspired by my conversation with Nikki'i Taylor. This isn't just an intellectual exercise. This is about transforming the way you live, starting today. First, I challenge you to have a conversation about mortality with someone you love this week. It doesn't have to be heavy or morbid. Start with a simple question like, what do you want to be remembered for? Or, what's the most important lesson you've learned in life? You might be surprised at the depth of connection and insight this can bring. Second, start your legacy project. This could be writing that letter to your loved ones, starting your legacy box, or simply journaling about the values and lessons you want to pass on. Remember, this isn't about creating a perfect document. It's about starting the process of reflection and intention. Third, choose one small way to start living your legacy today. If you want to be remembered for your kindness, perform a random act of kindness for a stranger. If you want to be known for your creativity, spend 15 minutes each day on a creative project. If you want to leave a legacy of environmental stewardship, start with a commitment to reduce your plastic use. Finally, I challenge you to become a path illuminator in your community. Look for opportunities to mentor others, to share your wisdom, to lift up those around you. Remember Maria the janitor. You don't need a fancy title or a big platform to make a profound impact. As you take these steps, remember, you're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing it for your loved ones, for your community, for those who will follow in your footsteps. You're illuminating a path that others will walk. In the words often attributed to the great Ralph Waldo Emerson, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. This is our opportunity, our responsibility to leave a trail of light, of love, of purpose. Imagine a world where we all lived with this level of intention and awareness. Imagine the ripple effects of millions of people consciously illuminating positive paths for others to follow. We have the power to create that world starting right here, right now. Yes, confronting our mortality can be uncomfortable. Yes, thinking about our legacy can feel overwhelming. But in that discomfort lies the potential for profound transformation, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. So I ask you, how will you illuminate your path? What legacy will you choose to live starting today? The world is waiting for your light. It's time to shine. Thank you.